Hello students. Now today we'll start lecture 3 and in this lecture we'll study very interesting topic that is reverberation and human ear. Now till now we have studied a lot of things and reflection, application of reflection, and before that also we have studied some characteristics parameters of the sound waves. Now we'll study reverberation and human ear. Fine. So here if the frequency of the sound wave is low, then the sound wave will not get reflected. So at that time what happens? We can hear multiple echoes from one source of sound if the area is large and has multiple reflecting surfaces such as valleys and huge empty rooms. So this phenomenon is known as reverberation. Fine. These are the literature portion, but I want to say you one thing, that please try to understand the reverberation using this picture. Okay, here let me take the pen. Okay, let's highlight something. This is a wall and this is another wall, right? And you can see that this is the speaker. So in this speaker, from this speaker, the man who is just standing here, so he can listen the sound. Now what happens? You can see that this is one path. Directly from speaker, it can move to the ear of the person. Another can be, it is incident on this wall, then it is reflected back to the same medium, and it will reach to the ear of the person. Fine. So that means this is another path, another thing. This is another path. It is reflected from wall 1. Let me give some name, wall 1 and wall 2. So it is reflected from a wall 1. After reflection, this reflected wave that has been again reflected by wall 2, and then it is near the person's ear. So this is called the reverberation, because the person, he cannot hear the sound properly, because here you can see that one sound wave is coming from here, another from reflected by the wall 1, then another one, multiple reflection from wall 1 and wall 2. So many reflected wave or so many sound energy or sound wave that is coming in the ear of the person. So here that means multiple reflecting surfaces you have here, that is two surfaces here, and this phenomenon is known as reverberation. I will clear this thing with more slides here. So what is the definition? Reverberation is the phenomena of persistence of sound after it has been stopped as a result of multiple reflection from surfaces such as furniture, people, air. Here it is wall. Okay, here it is wall, or some furniture may be also there. So reverberation, what is reverberation? It is the phenomenon of persistence of sound after it has been stopped. That means I am uttering, suppose reverberation, I have stopped, but till now you are listening reverberation, 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 like this. So this is reverberation, right? And these reflections build up with each reflection and decay gradually as they are absorbed by the surfaces of the objects. It will absorb a little bit. It will absorb a little bit. So you can see that some decaying sound is there. Okay. Now it is same as the echo, but the distance between the source of the sound and also the obstacle through which it gets reflected is less in case of reverberation. So what will be what should be the ideal distance in between the source of the sound and obstacle? That we'll discuss whenever we'll discuss echo. But you remember this thing here, this distance is less in case of reverberation. This is less in case of reverberation. Okay. So the distance between the source of the sound and also obstacle through which it gets reflected is less in case of its reverberation. Okay. So reverberation is mainly done by some reverberation time. We are defining with respect to reverberation time. Now, what is reverberation time? Reverberation time is really defined as the length of time when the sound decays by about 60 decibels starting from the initial level. So that means it decays by about 60 decibel from the starting initial level. So that is the reverberation time. That means this is the duration of the time within which your sound that will decay and it will go up to 60 decibel, right? That means 60 decibel up to this is the reverberation time. And the time delay is said to be not less than 0.1 second. Not less than 0.1 second. That what does it mean? It means that reflected form of the wave reaches the observer in more or less than 0.1 seconds. 0.1 seconds. So here there should be some delay, but this delay is more or less than 0.1 second. So this is the reverberation time. Okay. So hence this delay in the perception of the sound and also the original sound is said to be very less, and whereas the original sound will be still in my memory, but another sound is coming. So I cannot detect these two sounds. So here I cannot detect, that's why this is called reverberation time. So every person should talk in such a way that it should be we are uttering one after another. That means uttering the words that is after the reverberation time. Okay. So that's why reverberation can be avoided. Now, there are some advantages also here. Reverberation, it will do some wonders also. And it comes to musical symphonies and orchestra hall. This reverberation, this is sometimes it is very much useful for any functions, any concert. So reverberation is present, then sound quality gets enhanced drastically. Here you can see that there is a singer here, orchestra party here, and they have some different reflection, multiple reflections from this wall, from this wall, from this wall. Okay, so some multiple reflections are there, and then it is going to the audience. So here reverberated sounds, he or she is catching the reverberation sounds. So like you can hear no like very highly high sound, also some very good sound are there. So that's why whenever some construction of these halls we are doing, at that time some sound engineer should be there, right? So this is called reverberation and reverberation time and disadvantage of reverberation. But there are some disadvantages also. There are some disadvantages also. If the room has about nearly no sound absorbing surface, I do not have any soft surface. At that time, it will bounce back between surfaces and it takes a very long time as the sound dies. And in that room, if any listener will be there, at that time, he feels some uneasiness. So, this here, he tends to hear something, but he can't. And so, the reverberation, if it is more excessive, then sound is said to run together with a mere loss of articulation, and it becomes muddy and garbled. Okay, so in this case, this is the disadvantage of reverberation. Fine. So you understood what is reverberation, what is reverberation time, and what is advantage and what is disadvantage. Fine. Let's move to the application of the reverberation. Here we are using, in case of our uh, some living or recorded music, recorded at the time of recording also we are using some reverberations. And also chamber reverberator is one example where the sound is produced by the loudspeaker, which is then picked up by the microphone, along with which it affects the reverb. So we are using plate reverberator also. We are using plate reverberator also, where metal plate is used to produce vibration instead of loudspeaker. Metal plates we are using like for the reverberation. Now, how we can reduce the reverberation? We can we can observe one thing. If the surface of the object in the nearby enclosed space is covered by some soft surface or sound absorbing material, at that time it can be avoided. Porous material such as mineral wools, fiberglass are example of such absorbance. If we are using this, we can reduce the reverberation. And sound waves that penetrate in the mineral wool, and also sound energy gets converted to heat through the friction. So reverberation has been avoided. Fine. So this type of questions may come like, what is reverberation? What is reverberation? What are the advantages of reverberation? Define the decibel. What is a decibel meter? What is decibel scale? This type of questions may come into your question paper. Now sounds by humans. And now all of you, I request all of you, be careful. This is very, very important portion of your syllabus. Sounds by humans, that is very much useful for us also. Now, sound, we know that there is a voice box. It does not mean that sound box, right? This is a natural thing. Some voice box we have. So, in case sometimes we are calling in biology, that is larynx. That is called larynx, and it is located at the upper end of the windpipe. Now, there are two vocal cords are there. Two vocal cords are there, and if they get stretched across in the voice box, then you can see that there will be some sound have been generated. Here it has a slit through which the air is forced out by the lungs, and muscles attached to the vocal cords make it tight or loose. So if tight or loose, that means what? The muscle, whatever you have, those muscles will vibrate at that time due to the air pressure. At that time, your sound or your voice can be audible by any other person also. So first thing is the voice generation. So voice generation, that is that main part, that uh, what generates the voice, that is the larynx. That is what? Larynx. And here we have two vocal cords, and these vocal cords will be stretched across the voice box. And here we have a slit, and here the air is forced out by the lungs. And whenever to and fro, some to and fro or tight or loose, some stretches are there, at that time voice will come. Okay. Now the hearing. So one part I have told you how we are creating the voice. Now I will tell you how we are creating the how we are able to detect the sound, and we are able to understand the sound. So in our ear we have outer ear, that is called pinna, this portion, and where it collects the sound from surroundings. Now you can see that our this outer ear the structure, it has been made in such a way that it will act as a receptor, and sound passes through a tube called the auditory canal. So here we have one auditory canal. This is the external auditory canal. Let me take the pen. Here you have external auditory canal, this point. So this canal, it will take the sound and it will pass the sound to what? Some tympanic membrane. That is called the eardrum. And this membrane, this circular disc, this membrane vibrates when the sound incident. When the sound incident, it will vibrate, and vibrations are sent to the inner ear. From there, it goes to the brain as signal and via the auditory nerve. Okay, let me explain first only the outer ear. So outer ear, first thing here you have one portion that is pinna, and this pinna structure is made up by, it has been made in such a way that it can collect all the sounds from the surroundings. Fine. And after that there is an external auditory canal. This canal, the only job of this canal is that whatever the sound has been picked up by this pinna, that will be traveled and it will reach to the tympanic membrane or the eardrum, and then the eardrum will vibrate. When the eardrum will vibrate, this tympanic membrane, eardrum will vibrate. At that time, these vibrations will be sent to the what? The inner ear. And from where the it will go to the brain via signals and via the auditory nerve. Okay. So outer ear is, I think outer ear is clear to everybody. In outer ear, we have pinna. That pinna that collects the sound from the surroundings. Then sound passes through a tube that is called auditory canal. And auditory canal, through this auditory canal, whatever the sound is coming, that will create the vibration. Where? It will create the vibration on tympanic membrane. That is called eardrum. Fine. Next, the ear is sensitive organ of the human body, and the main job is that detecting the sound, transmitting the sound, and transducing the sound. Fine. Detecting, you understood, I think. That means the sounds are nearby, so I have to collect. Pinna is telling, yes, I have to collect the sound. Fine. Auditory canal, it will say that, yes, I am transmitting. Don't worry, I am transmitting this sound and I will reach this sound to the eardrum. Fine. Eardrum will vibrate. Fine. This point, I think you have a confusion. That is the transducing sound. Now, what happened? You are catching what? Sound energy. Now, the nerve, after this inner ear, the auditory nerve, it will just give one, it will convert it to the signal. And this signal will go to the brain and it will detect, and according to that, it will do the work. Suppose I am telling you, please lift the book. So you have to catch the sound, you have to transmit the sound through the auditory canal, then eardrum should vibrate, then it will, after this vibration should go to the, that means the sound energy after this vibration of the eardrum, it should go to the inner ear. Through the inner ear, you have auditory nerve. This auditory nerve will receive the signal and it will move it to the brain. The brain will detect the sound, detect the signal. After that, it will decide, yes, which portion of your body will be lifted. To lift the book, I need to lift the hand, right? So that will be done. So this is transducing. Transducing means you are converting from one energy to another energy. So sound energy that has been converted into the another type of signal energy. So that is called the transducing. Okay, and maintaining a sense of balance is another important function performed by the human ear. So one function, that is the hearing, most important function, and the second function, that is the balance. Sometimes you can see that whenever there is some infections in your ear, at that time you can feel some disbalance, you can feel some disbalance, or you can feel some nausea at that time also. So these are the main two functions of the ear. Now, so whatever we have studied, the ear has three parts: external ear, middle ear, internal ear. External ear pinna, then external auditory canal that transmits the sound to the what? Tympanic membrane or the eardrum. It will vibrate, then it will go to the some middle ear, then it will go to the internal ear. Okay, so we'll see one by one. So external ear pinna, already I have told you, a thin plate of elastic cartilage covered by a layer of skin, and it consists of funnel-like curves that collect the sounds and transmits them to the middle ear. And the lobule that consists of adipose and fibrous tissues supplied with the blood capillaries. Okay, so that's why your guardians, they are suggesting, please do not insert anything in your ear, inside your ear. It may be some bleeding. Okay. Then external auditory meters. Here you can see that external auditory meters, it is slightly curved canal. It is slightly curved canal and supported by bone in its interior part and cartilage in the exterior part. Okay, and this meters or the canal is lined with stratified epithelium and wax glands. Okay, and wax glands. So this is the next. We have tympanic membrane. That tympanic membrane is sometimes called eardrum. So this part receives and amplifies the sound waves. Its central part is known as umbu. So here, if I draw this one, this central part, this is called umbu. Okay, umbu. Then the middle ear. The middle ear consists of tympanic cavity. This is the middle ear, the red one. So this consists of tympanic cavity. It is a narrow air-filled cavity separated from external ear by tympanic membrane and from inner ear by bony wall. Okay, and the tympanic cavity has an auditory tube. It has some auditory tube that is known as eustachian tube. Eustachian tube in its interior wall. Okay, so here tympanic cavity you have. This is air filled cavity separated from external ear by what? Tympanic membrane, and it has another from inner ear by bony wall, and tympanic cavity has an auditory tube known as eustachian tube. Okay, clear? Next, the eustachian tube. This one. This eustachian tube is a 4 centimeter long tube that equalizes air pressure. This one equalizes air pressure on either side of the tympanic membrane. So in this case, whatever, this is the tympanic membrane. Fine. Now the air pressure, that is, this is the tympanic membrane. I'm drawing in this slide, but this structure is a solid structure. So here you have the air pressure that is coming from outside, and here you have the inside air pressure. Inside air pressure. Inside air pressure. So this eustachian tube, it is a 4 centimeter long tube, and it equalizes the air pressure on either side of the tympanic membrane. Whatever the air pressure that is exterior and whatever the air pressure from inside, interior air pressure, it will balance all those pressures. Then air ossicles. These are responsible for transmitting sound waves from the eardrum to the middle ear. Okay, so this one is the middle ear. Now it is these ear ossicles. They are responsible for transmitting the sound wave from our eardrum to the middle ear. Okay, there are 3 ear ossicles in the human ear. How many? There are 3 ear ossicles in the human ear. Now the malleus. Here you can see the malleus. Malleus, a hammer shape. This is a hammer shaped part that is attached to the tympanic membrane. Okay, this part is attached to the tympanic membrane through the handle, and in cus, this is in sus, through the head. It is the largest ear ossicle, and in sus, an anvil shaped ear. Here you can see that anvil shaped ear ossicle connected with the stapes. Okay, connected with the stapes. This is the stapes. This one is the stapes. Okay, so it is the smallest ossicle and also the smallest bone in the human body. Smallest bone in the human body. Next, we have the inner ear. It comprises of bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. Okay, so in this case, we have 2-part bony labyrinth first. The bony labyrinth that is comprises a vestibule, 3 semicircular canal, spirally coiled cochlea. Here you can see that spirally coiled cochlea. Here you can see spirally coiled cochlea. And here we have vestibule, semicircular canals, spirally coiled cochlea, and it is filled with perilymph. It is filled with perilymph. It is filled with perilymph. Membranous labyrinth. The bony labyrinth surrounds the membranous labyrinth here, and it comprises sensory receptors responsible for balancing and hearing. The membranous labyrinth is filled with endolymph and comprises 3 semicircular ducts, that is cochlear duct. This is the cochlear duct, sacula, and atrial. The sensory receptor include cristae, or the organ of Cotry, and ampullaris macule. And ampullaris macule. Okay. Now, function of the ear. Here, following are the important functions of the ear. First is the hearing. The sound waves pass through the auditory canal, reach the eardrum, and then reach the eardrum. The vibrations produced pass through the tympanic membrane, then to the tympanic cavity. Then what happens? Then ear ossicles in the tympanic cavity. This receive the vibration, and the stapes pushes the oval window in and out. This action is passed on to the organ of Cotry and the receptor of hearing. Cotry is the receptor of hearing that contains tiny hair cells that translates the vibrations into an electrical impulses that are transmitted to the brain via sensory nerves, Okay, so whatever the conversion from this vibration to the electrical impulse, that is the transduction or transducing. Now the balance. Here you have the eustachian tube. Now eustachian tube and the vestibular complex are the more important part. Those are responsible for the balance. The eustachian tube that equalizes the air pressure of the middle ear and maintains the balance. Vestibular complex that contains receptors that maintain the body balance. Okay, that maintain the body balance. Thank you. Till now, this much.